So anyway, yes, thank you, Chris, for the introduction. I'm really delighted to be here today with you all, and thank you for joining this session and sticking around for the rest of this morning. I'm very pleased today to talk to you about a subject that I think is very relevant these days: connecting student success to programs for student financial health. And so as Chris said, I think most of you will remain on mute, or you'll all remain on mute, but that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you throughout the presentation. So again, if you do have questions or comments, please chime in the chat box. And also there are a few points where I'm going to ask for a little bit of feedback from you, so I'd appreciate that. So I just want to provide you with a little bit of background in terms of my role at the college. I wear a couple of hats. First of all, I teach as an adjunct in the business department. I teach global business and business management 101, which is a subject that I love. But I also have another major role, and that is as director of the Center for Financial and Economic Education. Now that's a very long name, but what we do is very simple. We help our students learn to manage money and to make smart financial decisions. So our center actually started almost 10 years ago. It kind of shocks me to think about that, but we are located within workforce development and community education, but our programs really stretch across all divisions on our campus. And over the period of time that we've been in existence, we've been able to provide workshops and classes and other resources to over 4,000 students on our campus. And we're fortunate to be funded over that period of time by a number of financial institutions. Our main funder is JP Chase, which, if any of you know what they do around financial capability and financial health in the community, it's really quite astonishing. They provide a lot of support to ourselves and others. And so in terms of our main program that I wanted to talk to you about today, it's the Money Smart form. It is one-on-one financial coaching. And the reason why we implemented this particular program is because we know that workshops and classes are useful and necessary, but they don't necessarily help students change their behavior and build different kinds of habits. And so the goal of our coaching program was to do just that, to allow students to work with a one-on-one financial coach to help them set measurable financial goals and then to track those goals over time. And so in the 6 years that we've been doing this program, we've actually been able to collect quite a lot of data. And that data shows us that coaching is an effective way to help students build financial health. And I'll share some of that data with you in a minute. But I also wanted to mention that we have, as a result of our support from JP Chase, we've been able to publish a guidebook to share our best practices around financial coaching. And I'm happy to make this guidebook available to anyone. It is actually now just a PDF on our website, but I also put it into the chat box in case any of you are interested in accessing it. We have also, as a college, become involved in forming a network called the Student Financial Health Initiative. And we're in the process of really inviting other colleges to join this initiative to help colleges identify resources and best practices and data that can help them elevate student financial health on their campuses. And if any of you are interested, again, we invite you to join. Please just type your name into the chat box and we'll reach out to you. So what I want to do, I don't have a lot of time, maybe 30 or so minutes, just shine a light today on the importance of student financial health and why I think it should be a part of every college's strategy for student success. I'll also talk a little bit about our coaching program, the Money Smart Forum, in terms of how we structure it and how we measure our outcomes. And then I'll also leave you at the end with a few tips that you can perhaps think about and hopefully consider for implementing financial coaching on your campus. So actually, I can't see the chat box now, but I was going to invite you to just type in and share with us what types of financial health programs do you have on your campus? I know that many of you may not be directly involved in in delivering student financial health, but out there I can see it. But anything that you know of, perhaps you could share with us, and that may involve, courses that you offer in personal finance. It may involve perhaps a workshop series. It may involve a speaker series, or it may involve other special events that go on campus. If you could share anything that you know about, that would be great to share with us. I'm just trying to. Thank you. Okay, SUNY OCC holds student workshops led by community resources that target URM populations. Yes, that's great. Student workshops are, fabulous. Any other types of programs that you offer on campus? Okay, maybe folks are a little hesitant to, or maybe trying to think of what you may or may not offer. But I'll talk a little bit at the end that in terms of our initiative, I am in touch with a number of SUNY schools, so I know that there are a range of programs going on. And, we also know, it's interesting that financial capability is something that every educator agrees is important. But yet what I see on campuses across the country is that the actual resources devoted to student financial health are really not significant. And in fact, sometimes fall into what I would consider, a low priority. And so thank you. I just saw another note from Shauna at SUNY Plattsburgh, offers student workshops in incorporating student financial health into the fall first-year course seminars. Thank you. Actually, that is a great way to introduce student financial health, and I'll talk a little bit about that again. But to my point about resources being devoted to financial health, I just wanted to share that last year I had one of my student assistants look at the website of every single SUNY school, 2-year plus 4-year colleges. And what we were looking for is evidence of student financial health programs on the website. And this was a completely unscientific survey that we did, but we typed, a number of keywords into the search feature. And to be honest, we only found evidence of student financial health programs at less than 50% of the colleges. And, that's not to say that student financial health programs or financial wellness programs were not being offered. But what it told me is that colleges just don't make this a priority for whatever reason. Certainly not in the same way as student athletics or career services or mental health programs. And these things are all important, but you also have to consider that student financial health is something that every student on our campus needs. And this is also borne out by some recent data that measures the state of student financial wellness. And this was this data was put together by Trellis, which you may be familiar with, and was published last year. They did a survey of over 17,000 college students to ask them about the state of their financial wellness. And as you are probably not surprised that what we're seeing is a very, I think a very troubling picture. This was before the pandemic. So about 2/3 of college students said that they worried about paying for college. Almost 2/3 said they would not be able to get $500 in cash or credit for an emergency. And this is also troubling because this is one of the reasons why students are often forced to drop out of college. A little over half said they had difficulty meeting monthly expenses. About 30% said they had food insecurity. 23% said they did not know how to pay for next semester. And about 16% experienced homelessness in the past 12 months. I found that last data point really troubling as well. And when you ask students about their student loan debt, which has really a very high impact on their financial health in the future, you find also a very troubling picture. About 58% of students currently in college say they have accumulated more debt than they expected. And about 68% of those students say they actually lack the confidence in their ability to repay debt. And this really plays directly into some of the skills that we try to help students build in our program. Financial wellness matters for a number of reasons. And as I suggested, we are seeing more students today in financial distress as a result of COVID-19 than ever before. And as I'm sure many of you are also aware, the economic impact of this pandemic has disproportionately hurt and impacted our communities of color and our underserved communities. And I know, for example, on our campus, these students represent the majority of students on our campus. We also know that there is some research out there that demonstrates the connection between financial wellness and a student's ability to succeed in terms of continuation and graduation. And there was actually a very excellent study done by the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston in 2015 that outlined all of these factors that go into helping students succeed. And they pointed out that, as you know, I'm sure you're all aware of, is that when a student faces financial difficulty, it tends to hit their academics first. And yet those of us who are in the academic side, a lot of times we think only of academic success as, or supports as helping students with academic interventions, like perhaps tutoring or advising or other types of activities. But in fact, you know, what we need to think about are holistic financial supports. When we take this little microcosm of the college population and we broaden it out to the US population, we find also a very grim picture, is that we have a crisis of financial health right now in the US. We had it before the pandemic, but now it is even, it's more exacerbated. In studies done earlier this year by the National Endowment for Financial Education, it showed that about 88% of adults said that they experienced financial stress as a result of COVID-19. And another study done by US Financial Health Pulse, it's a 2020 report of economic trends, showed that really only 28% of Americans can be classified as financially healthy according to 8 measures of financial health. And we also, connected to that is a crisis, I would say, of financial literacy among adults in this country. In a survey done by FINRA, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, it showed that only about 1/3 of adults in our country could correctly answer 5 questions about basic personal finance concepts. And this is significant because this means that people really don't have the information they need to make appropriate decisions. And within that adult population, the millennials, and also I might add, Gen Z, so age group of roughly 17, 18 to early 30s, this group has the lowest level of financial literacy across all age groups in the US. These are, by the way, our college students. And according to measures of this survey going back 12 years, the level of financial literacy is actually declining over that period of time. So the significance of this is important, not just for our college students, but for our economy as a whole, because we know, and this has been in public discourse so much lately in this election cycle, the wealth gap is getting bigger. And this is magnifying social issues such as economic inequality and social justice. And financial wellness and financial health is at the heart of these issues. So I wanted to also take a minute to talk about, terminology. I always tell my students terminology matters. So I just thought I would just make a comment about the whole concept of financial capability. So we use terminology like financial health, financial wellness, financial security sort of interchangeably. But financial capability is a concept that has come into use over the past 10 years, I would say, by practitioners in this field. And what it recognizes is that the state of financial capability, as we define it, is really a multi-dimensional concept that understands that individuals must acquire a combination of skills. It includes knowledge and information, and that is maybe what we call traditional financial literacy, but they also have to have access to resources, access to financial products and services, and they have to build appropriate habits over time to learn how to apply that information. So when we talk about financial capability, it is like this broad idea. It is not intuitive. Unfortunately, many people learn financial behaviors by trial and error, and that is, I think, why we have the problems that we have. But financial capability is a body of knowledge that needs to be learned. And it is, of course, changing all the time because our financial world is becoming more complicated and more driven by technology. So let me ask you if anyone would like to chime in. When we think about financially capable students, what do you think about? What is a financially capable student? Or maybe even from your perspective, you know, what are some of the things that you wish that you had learned when you were in college about managing money? Yes, thank you, Julia. Students who learn how to budget and pay bills, absolutely. One of the measures of financial capability is learning, being able to not only live within your means, but also pay your bills on time. Any other thoughts? Thank you. Students who don't use college loans to fund their lifestyle. Very important. Yes, one of the things that we try to do in this program is to help students understand that they can minimize the amount of student loans they take out by creating a budget. Thank you. A student who's aware of the many terms of finance, yes, understanding the terminology of finance and grants and the ins and outs of financial aid is important. Another comment, thank you, is learning to invest is very important, in understanding that debt, how it can be an appropriate investment. Yes, thank you. So I appreciate all of those comments because they are all relevant to what we think financially capable students should be able to do. And I just summarized a few on this slide because these are the things that we try to help our students understand. A financially capable student should be able to manage expenses and prioritize limited resources. And this is really important because, most of our students are from low-income households. They don't have a lot of income. And so it's a question of, how do we make choices? They need to learn how to create and utilize a college budget. And that plays into understanding options to pay for college, including all of the ins and outs of financial aid. They need to understand student loan debt and not only how much they have now, but what impact that debt will have on their finances once they graduate. They also need to take appropriate steps to build credit. Most of our students honestly have no credit or they have ruined their credit. And as you know, you can't really become financially independent unless you have credit. And most importantly, we want students to learn to advocate for themselves, to learn that they have a voice, that they can perhaps negotiate with a lender around some types of terms, that they have an ability to call up a student loan servicer and ask for a deferment if they have financial issues. And these are things that really never occur to students unless they actually learn these skills. So just very briefly, the way that we structure our coaching program is that it's offered as an extracurricular activity. It's open to any student on campus who would like to participate. And in the coaching itself, we have, which we've been doing for 6 years, we serve about 100 to 125 students every year. And that's really limited by the resources we have and our funding. So we've served over 700 students in our program. And we draw the students from credit and non-credit programs. About 80% are from credit. And I have to say, most of the students are from business and accounting. And I would love to have more, liberal arts students joining, but that is how it's been in the past. And about 20% of our students are from non-credit or English as a second language programs. And when they join the program, we work on those issues where students are most vulnerable, helping them to increase income, increase savings, manage debt, and to build credit. So we have a very small team. We're lean and mean, 3 people, including myself, and 2 professional financial coaches who really work on an hourly basis. So when a student signs up, they would have an initial meeting with one of our coaches to discuss kind of what their financial picture is, what their challenges are. And then the coach will work with them to design a strategy that meets their goals and their concerns. So on average, the participants will meet with a coach every other week for 30 minutes. And students meet on average 5 to 6 times over the course of a semester. And that's really, it's necessary to get students committed to meeting with a coach, because otherwise they can't really make any significant progress toward their goals. And so actually we've had many students who have met with a coach on average of 10 to 12 times, because I think once they learn how it benefits them, they're really all in. They want to continue with the work with the coach. And so I suggested before that we have a set of metrics that we measure every year. And I think this is important to us because it tells us whether or not our program is succeeding. And it also helps us to, report our progress to our funders. So these are the metrics that we've been measuring over the last 5 years. And we're very pleased that we've actually been able to exceed the goals every year. And so, for example, we focus on savings. We believe that savings, getting in the habit of savings, is the foundation to building financial capability. And so we measure the total savings of all our participants. And this is data, by the way, from 2019, because we don't have comparable 2020 data yet. But last year we had total savings of over $152,000, and that averages out per student to a little over $1,600. So it may not sound like that's a lot of money, but for most of our students in our program, they have never saved any money before. And so what we're building is habits. We're helping them to get in the habit of paying themselves first. And hopefully these habits will continue over time. We have in the little bar chart on the right, just again, that average savings per student over the past 5 years. And again, we're very pleased that, we've been able to actually increase that amount of savings, I think, just through learning how to work, motivate students and work more effectively with them. We had average debt reduction of over $2,400, and that was among a smaller group of students who actually had debt and were working to reduce it. We had a number of students who were building credit for the first time. We had an average credit score improvement of 37 points, which I think is pretty significant, because if any of you have ever tried to, improve your credit, it takes a bit of time and it takes some very targeted actions. We measured also students getting new or higher paying jobs, about 20%, and that is directly a result of working with a coach. We also measured graduation and persistence. So the graduation rate was 29%. That's just a flat percentage of students in the program. We can't do apples and oranges or apples and apples to the methodology that our college uses, which is, first-time full-time students over a period of 3 years. We don't have a comparable population in coaching. However, we did measure persistence rate using the same methodology as the college. Our persistence rate of students in our program was over 90%, actually 92%. And in the previous years, it was also over 90%. And I think, there are a number of factors that go into this. I'm confident that, their affiliation with our program has made a huge difference in terms of their being able to remain in college. We also motivate students by offering them a certificate of achievement if they set specific goals and meet specific goals, and demonstrate that they have formed habits of saving. And this is just a photo of our students from last year. Some of the students, we have an awards ceremony at the end of every year. We also give small cash prizes, and even small cash prizes offer a lot of motivation to our students. Also, I might add that post-COVID-19, as you might imagine, we have shifted our metrics. We have so many students who lost jobs, who are unemployed, and who can frankly no longer, have a savings goal. But what our coaching did is to shift our focus on helping students get through this emergency. For example, applying for emergency financial aid, applying for unemployment insurance, researching job opportunities and online job opportunities, and as well as referring students to resources on our campus around food banks, housing assistance, and so forth. And we have seen through the data and through the outcomes that I just suggested that financial coaching actually supports the mission of almost every college in terms of promoting economic opportunity and educational advancement. And I see kind of four major benefits of financial coaching. And that is, as I had already suggested, number one is supporting persistence to graduation. Number two is fostering economic mobility among students who, again, may come from disadvantaged backgrounds. And I think every college wants to see students move up the ladder of economic security. But for the most part, they may have a degree, but they may not have the tools to learn how to create economic security for themselves and their families. It supports career development and workforce transition. One of the things that we do in our program is to help students understand the relationship between their financial plan and their career plan, because we try to help them see that you cannot really have one without the other. And finally, it helps integration of the immigrant community. And we've had so many, for example, English as a second language students who joined our program, and they gain benefits like just learning how the financial system in our country works. And they've also been able to matriculate as credit students. And a couple of the images, a couple of the photos of students that I have here, our students, in the one case, Pablo started in ESL speaking no English at all, and then after a couple of years was able to actually matriculate as a credit student. And another student, Kiara, who had a very similar story, graduated in nursing. So you may be thinking to yourself, well, oh, this is all well and good, but how can we really implement these programs? It sounds complicated. Actually, I would say that you just need to start small and find, find ways and programs where financial coaching can be offered. And my belief is that financial coaching can actually be integrated into many different types of programs on your campus. And in the guidebook that I wrote, I have a number of suggestions for integrating financial coaching into these programs, and I don't have time to really talk about many of them today. But actually, I just might mention, for example, orientation, financial aid, first year experience, benefits access, opportunity programs on our campus. We work closely with all of these programs to not only provide just some basic, what I call old-fashioned financial literacy, but to also offer our financial coaching programs. For example, I saw someone ask about first year experience. One of the things that we've done in first year experiences a few years ago, actually last year, our college made this a required one credit class. Prior to that, it was not required, but we were able to include a module on personal finance in the first year experience curriculum. And as a result, what I've been able to do, as well as my coaches, is to go into the FYE classes. And then when we do that, we teach the module, but we also are able to recruit students who are interested in financial coaching so that they can follow up and join our program in that way. So just a few thoughts, I'd like to leave you with about financial coaching. And by the way, you could substitute for financial coaching the term student financial health programs, because I think that these ideas and suggestions really apply to any kind of program that you might want to implement. And it's also, as I suggested before, for various reasons, student financial health programs are really underfunded. It's all about finding resources. And I don't know why this is true, but on many colleges, the view is that, financial education should be provided by maybe outside resources, maybe a bank or a financial institution. And so I think for this reason, a lot of colleges really don't even include student financial health in their operating budget. I know, for example, at my college, that's the case. And so it's really a question of finding resources. It's a process of education and collaboration. One thing I would suggest is forming an advisory committee around student financial health. And that would include anyone on your campus who has a commitment to financial health or who is interested in advocating for financial health. And that can include faculty, staff, administrators. I know I have for example, committee on my campus, and I have a professor in the art history department and in the art department who promotes financial health that way among her students. Also, it's important, obviously, to get buy-in from your key leaders. And in many ways, this is also an educational process. By just presenting them with data and evidence of the importance of student financial health, obviously having your president or provost on board is important. But anyone, for example, head of student involvement or financial aid is important as well. And as I suggested, partnering with organizations is helpful, especially those programs like TRIO or other opportunity programs that are already delivering financial education. And as many of you may know, TRIO, being a federal program, has a requirement to include a financial literacy component in their programs. So, and also, again, as I suggested, always positioning student financial health as a component of student success, I think always helps to get the attention of leaders or even of your board members. So, just a few, again, tips for identifying resources that may help with student financial health programs. Again, local banks have professionals and funding who may be willing to provide some funding to your campus. Community organizations or professional organizations also may be able to contribute resources. And one organization I would mention is the Financial Planning Association, which is a national organization of financial planners. They have chapters in almost every city around the US, and they also have a very robust pro bono committee. They're very happy to work with organizations and colleges, for example, to do workshops and also to provide financial coaching. Working with nonprofits is also important. And I mentioned before the National Endowment for Financial Education. They have a wonderful program called Cash Course, that's all one word, that affords a number of resources that colleges can just pick up and use, very easy to use. And then also don't forget alumni. Some alumni may have experience in this field and are willing to help out. So just a few final thoughts. I think, as I said, everyone agrees student financial health is important, but we don't always know how to deliver it. And the reality is that the majority of our students have never had financial literacy education at any point in their educational lives, either in elementary school or high school. And and if they don't get these skills in college, they may leave without the adequate skills to navigate their financial lives and our increasingly complicated financial world. And again, as I suggested, I think we need to think about financial capability as an important part of the holistic skills that we offer to our students. And final takeaway, building financial health is not just a nice idea. It should be an essential component of every college's strategy to help students succeed and achieve academic and career goals. And with that, I think I have like maybe one minute, but I just wanted to point you to this. By the way, this PowerPoint is posted on the site, on the conference site. If any of you are interested in accessing this guide, I have a link to it here. Also, if any of you are interested in the Student Financial Health Initiative, please just type your name into the chat box, or you can contact me here. And I just want to say that so far, we have about 20 SUNY colleges who are involved in our initiative. So please, there may be folks on your campus who are already involved. And also, you may not be aware, but we have on the SUNY Blue site a financial wellness community site. And here's a screenshot of it. If any of you are interested in accessing this, please let me know. It's actually maintained by SUNY Oneonta, a woman named Mary Ballard, who's done a lot of work around this.
Okay. So we are out of time, but I want to make sure everybody gets a break. But I did check, and so if everyone navigates to the website and to your session, the slide deck is there, so you can access those links. Was that link earlier? Was that someone asked about the guidebook? Was that the guidebook?
Yes.
On there? Okay. All right.
Yes, this is the link to the guidebook. And I think I also typed it into the chat box.
I think you might just have to hit return because I don't see it.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
This is,
Okay.
oh,
All right. That's great.
but I
Excellent.
typed it in, but I forgot to press return. But actually, this is good. So
Yeah.
this is this also includes a link to a registration form. If any of you are interested in the Student Financial Health Initiative, you can sign up in the form and also check out the guidebook.
Super.
Thanks.
Thank you so
Thank you everyone
much,
for your
Suzanne.
attention.
That's
I really
fantastic.
appreciate it.
All right. Well, if you want to hang out and anybody wants to chat with
Yeah,
you in the
I'm
text,
happy
they
to.
can. I'm going to
Yeah.
stop the recording.